Well, in a moment, we hope to be joined on the line from London by the international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. But of course, as you saw there, and perhaps we could be looking at some pictures from that Donald Trump speech to Congress. The president delivered his first address to Congress since returning to the White House. There was so much that he talked about. A lot of stuff to do with military aid and all the rest of it, as well as, of course, things that affect U.S. domestic and international politics. Well, for more on all that, I'm joined now on the line from London by the international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Dr. Laskiewicz, thank you very much indeed for joining us. President Trump, of course, as we all saw there, delivering his first address to Congress since returning to the White House. Talked about a lot of things, but let's start with the issue of military aid to Ukraine. What did you glean from what he said?
Well, actually, as in keeping with this entire address, there was nothing especially new. The new point was that US is suspending military intelligence to Ukraine, which is far more important than anything he actually said. But what he said is this: because President Zelensky has agreed now to Trump's terms and will sign the minerals deal, then for his side, Donald Trump is prepared to carry on speaking with Ukraine. And therefore, this is a good thing, even though it cost, I'm sure, President Zelensky some pride to do that. However, he saw no other option. But you see, the suspension of military intelligence is equally as important and, to be honest, very worrying, to say the least.
Well, absolutely, I agree. I mean, suspending military intelligence means that it could obviously affect Ukraine on the battlefield. But up till now, the impression that many of America's European allies had was that Mr. Trump seemed to be coming down on the side of Moscow rather than Kyiv in the Ukraine war. Do you think this speech redressed that balance in any way?
Not really, no. He is quite clearly interested in doing business with Russia. He has recently stated that Russia is no longer a cyber enemy on goodness knows what grounds. And to be quite honest, this speech merely said he's prepared to carry on to some degree working with Ukraine. But it is nothing new. It does not redress the balance. It's quite clear that America first means that it would work with Russia or Ukraine or both.
So would it be fair to say that Mr. Trump's decision to stop military aid to Ukraine has yielded the kind of results that he wanted? Because, I mean, he read the letter from President Zelensky saying he was ready to make a deal on the minerals and to go to the negotiating table to end the war.
Yes. The business of suspending military aid was a huge success for Donald Trump and shows that if he uses the big stick, things will happen. And that therefore, in this sense, he has once again shown himself to be a strong, decisive president getting what he wants. So this has been an enormous success for him. However, please note, it's not clear what peace deal President Zelensky has in mind. As we stand right now, nothing is known about what President Donald Trump wants either. So therefore, there's some darkness here on this issue. But the very fact that he said over again, he is prepared to negotiate. And please note, recently, that is since the debacle when he was in Washington, he has publicly stated, I think someone counted it 33 times, how he thanks the US for their aid to date. Shows that to this extent it has been a week of success for President Donald Trump.
And given that President Trump read that letter from President Zelensky, do you see that as a sign of warming relations, perhaps, between the two sides?
Better to say cooling off of tensions. Warming is too strong a word. It's not clear that he rates Zelensky. It's not clear he likes him, but there is no overt quarrel at present. They're prepared to work together to some degree. This is the important aspect.
So how do you foresee that dimension proceeding from here? Are we now likely to see an acceleration in peace talks on Ukraine?
Yes, but not quite in the way that President Zelensky or Europe wants to see. The key meeting and the key negotiations are still between Washington and Moscow. And this is going to be the key one. They have stated that when it gets to the serious negotiating stage, that President Zelensky will be let in, presumably the Europeans as well. However, right now, as we stand, what President Donald Trump has got is almost complete capitulation to his terms, and he's going to go ahead with Moscow, making the initial proposals and the initial negotiation by himself, as far as can be gathered from this.
And on the issue of tariffs, Dr. Laskiewicz, I mean, that has huge international political implications beyond the economic, doesn't it? Canada's Prime Minister is absolutely furious. So as well as the economic disruption, Americans will have to deal with a bit of international political turbulence as well, won't they? Yes,
but President Trump has made it quite clear he doesn't mind the turbulence. He expects it to go away simply because the whole of the USA is just one gigantic honeypot for other nations to export to, and he expects them to come to their senses. And indeed, what we saw with President Zelensky is just that. Therefore, a bit of kerfuffle, some noises made by politicians, a bit of retaliation, and that's all he expects to happen. Please note that the ability to put up tariffs goes with America's ability to fulfill and fill in the gaps made by now expensive foreign products. And that is what he is in effect gambling on, that once he's put up the tariffs, American businesses will take up any slack there is, and therefore, not immediately, but in the next year, 2 or 3, in time for the next elections in USA, he expects to have a dynamic, booming economy. And the fact that some people outside are mouthing off about America really doesn't interest him. And in any case, nothing serious has happened. And as for retaliatory tariffs, insofar as they've taken place, he doesn't even care. And of course, Mr. Trump has been back in power for just 43 days. Would you agree with those who say that in that time he's caused an upheaval in US and international politics? Oh, I think he certainly has, and domestically as well, please. Certainly, I think what has happened, obviously, is that in the past 4 years, he hasn't just been sitting in his hotels or his houses. He's been actively planning. Everything that he's done has smacks of a plan developed over the years. It's quite coherent in its way, by the way. America first means it's no longer interested in the leadership of the Western world. It's America first for jobs, hence the tariffs. America first for making money instead of suffering huge trade deficit. The interesting one is the federal deficit and what he's going to do about that. But up till now, he has done an awful lot in 43 days. And therefore, from this point of view, he must look back and say it's been fairly successful from his point of view. Other people will probably say the upheavals were unnecessary or wrong, but I don't think he much cares what other people think about him. On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. Dr. Marek Laskiewicz is the International Affairs Analyst who was talking to me on the line from London.